Who wants to learn how to build more muscle, burn more fat, and get stronger? I think a lot of people out there. Happy When Wellness, you guys. Happy today. I hope you're having a great day. If you want to build more fat, then don't watch this. If you want to build more muscle and burn more fat and increase strength, watch this. Here's some quick tips, things you can do tomorrow to begin this process. 1, you're going to start eating more protein. You're going to start eating more protein with your meals. I think one of the most common mistakes that people make, even when they're just trying to burn more fat in itself, is they don't have enough protein. They have a salad during the day. They have a banana at breakfast. Protein, protein, protein. You're always going to double it up. Higher protein intake is going to increase your resting metabolic rate. It's going to give you more muscle mass. You're going to be burning more calories throughout your day. Just going about things, you're going to burn more calories at rest. So that's a big one. Every time you go out, you're getting double meat. Always double meat, double protein, double fish, whatever the source is. Eat a lot of it, okay? That's 1. 2, you've got to do high intensity exercise if you want to get your heart rate up and you want to burn some more fat, burn a lot of calories, right? But you've also got to do some heavy lifting if you want to build some more muscle. You can't just lift light weight and just do only drop sets with much lighter weight than you would be doing with more, rigorous, difficult, closer to maximum strength lifts, right? So how do we combine that? You can do both at once, okay? Beginning of the workout, do your bulk sets. The beginning of the workout, take ample rest. Do your first 5 sets where you take a few minutes between each one. Go for like 4 to 6 reps, all right? Get a lot of rest. Get fresh for each set. Really crank them out. After that, you can start the drop sets. Now, here's a big trick. When you're doing the drop sets, which you're going to be taking anywhere from, 10. Well, actually, do it. I'll tell you exactly how I do it. Do it like this. You do the 5 heavy sets. When you start doing the drop sets, they have now a 20-set drop set. Okay? 20 subset drop set, as we say here at When Wellness. You're going to do 30 breaths for the first 5 sets of that drop set. 30 breaths is a decent amount of rest. I mean, you're probably getting up around a minute. Now, it's not quite as long as the ample rest of what was maybe 2 minutes or even 3-4 minutes if you were doing squats or something like that in the bulk sets in the first 5. But you're still getting enough rest that you can keep the weight pretty heavy. So you can still get some good strength building there, right? First 5 sets of the drop set, 30 breaths between each set. Then, each subset that is. The next 5 subsets within that drop set, you're going to do 20 breaths. Then you're going to do 10 breaths between each set for the next 5. So sets 11 through 15, right? And then when you get 16 through 20, you're pretty much going one right after the other. Even 5 breaths is, 5 breaths is acceptable. 10 breaths even for sets 11 through 15 isn't that much rest. So that's the point. You're doing a drop set, but you're resting just enough to keep the weight heavy. It's worth giving yourself an extra 10 seconds, say, to get an extra, 30 pounds or whatever, the difference would be when doing those rows and doing the lat pull downs and doing the bench drop set or whatever the hell it is, right? You're building strength at the same time, and you can keep size on like that. If you just went right into it where you went just literally no rest, you're going to be so tired, you're not going to be able to do that same weight. You're going to have to drop the weight a lot, and it's going to get to the point where you're doing such light weight, that had you taken a minute and done that weight, you'd be like, what the hell is this? It's so easy, right? You don't want to be at that point until really the very end, right? So those last 5 sets, you can do less rest. Again, like 5 breaths between each one. Subset, drop set. Now, here's another really big thing. During the drop sets, don't drop the weight unless you get only 4 reps. Don't drop the weight unless you only get 4. If you get 6, you keep the same weight and do it again. Whatever rest interval we're at, whether it's 30 breaths, 20, 10, 5, whatever point you're at on the drop set, that principle remains the same. You are going to get stronger than you've ever been if you do that. I promise you. and you're going to be dripping sweat. You're going to get the heart rate really high. So do I have to do cardio? It's a great question. Doing aerobic exercise, doing cardio, long distance cardio or sprinting is phenomenal. Stuff like that's great for your brain. It's great for your heart. It is great for you, But if you're looking to just get what's really the benefit of doing a lot of that cardio? Well, a lot of it is just getting your heart rate really high. So, you could dance like a maniac for 10 minutes and get your heart really high, right? Sammy Duggan knows what I'm talking about. What's up, man? We'll say hi to the rest of you guys in a second. But, Margie, I didn't see you on there. What's up? It's hard for me to see from here. I can't really see everyone. But I love you. But yeah, it's about getting the heart rate up. So, if you're doing this drop set and you're at the point where your shirt is just absolutely covered in sweat after, and you're dying, you're dripping, you got that heart rate pretty high, right? You can just judge how high the heart rate is. And in terms of just getting cut and big, no, you don't need to do cardio. You don't. Realistically, if you're doing it right, but you got to work out to absolute failure each time. When I say don't drop it until you get 4 reps, it's just a premise that you're going to be going to failure every time within these drop sets. Not to the point where you're sacrificing form, to where you're going to get hurt, right? But where you have to start squirming or something, just put the weight down and live to fight the next set. But absolutely, you got to push yourself to failure, each one of those. Don't drop till you get 4. Change the rest periods throughout, like I said. Try that, get more protein. Okay, so what else we got? More sleep. You definitely got to get more sleep. If you want to build muscle and you want to burn more fat and you want to think better, look better, feel better, you need more sleep. There's no replacement for sleep. You can't take any B vitamins or any there's no magical pill out there that can take its place. No amount of pre-workout you could take in the morning to help get you through the day is going to take the place of sleep. Sleep, sleep, sleep. You should be getting 8 hours. Remember that at least. There's a Harvard study that shows if you get 5 hours of sleep, we talked about it here at One Wellness before, you have a 15% reduction in testosterone levels on average. If you get 1 hour for every hour less than that 5, it's another 15% deduction. How the hell are you going to be building muscle, and even feeling good and doing anything well if you're not getting sleep? So you guys got to prioritize sleep. Remember, you're doing hard workouts like this, you don't fill a Ferrari up with regular. You fill it up with premium, right? You're working really hard on one end, you got to fill it up to an extra degree. On the back end, you have to compensate with things like sleep and good food. Bringing us to food. What are you going to eat? You're going to eat more protein, like we said, but you're also going to make sure you get a lot of soluble fiber. You're going to get a lot of salad. All your carbs are coming in the form of something with soluble fiber. That's a big one. I don't think they talk about that often enough. But instead of having white bread, instead of having cakes and candies and treats and things as your carbs. Oh, it's okay, I can have this as my carbs. You don't want simple carbs, right? You're not replenishing glycogen stores quite as well for the next workout, right? So we could break it down to glucose, use it for energy, anaerobic respiration, blah, blah, blah. But also we're not feeding our gut bacteria if we have things like that. We're much better off with berries and fruit and vegetables, salad. Eat a lot of fruit and vegetables as your carbs. But the majority of that meal, if you're looking to build muscle and burn fat, it's protein. It's protein. Now, those are your only carbs. Your major energy source is fat. You're going to have a ton of healthy fat. What are you talking about, Shane? If I eat all this fat, I'm going to get fat. No, it's the opposite. If you eat a ton of carbs, generally, you produce more fat. Whatever you eat, your liver is going to produce the opposite. It thinks it needs to. It doesn't think it needs to produce what you're taking in all the time, right? Unless you take in such an excess that it has to store that surplus, right? So if you ate a crazy amount of fat, yeah, but I've been working out a long time. I'm in good shape. I feel strong. And I eat so much fat. I'll eat a thing of salmon like this, but it's accompanied with so much protein, right? So I can build muscle. My resting metabolic rate is high. I'm starving all the time, right? It's actually a pain in the ass often. It's high maintenance, but it's worth it. I feel great. And I perform well too. So it's, definitely something else you should be doing is getting a lot of healthy fats. They come in the form of fatty fish, like we just talked about, salmon, tuna, herring, mackerel. Herring also has a ton of creatine in it, right? An energy thing. we've talked about, can improve cognition too, especially visuospatial, short-term working memory. We talked about the Corsi block test and all that stuff, and that was in adults over 60, but also great for people in their youth, right? So these things, this red meat, oh, I shouldn't have all this red meat. Red meat has a lot of carnitine in it. Helps, usually the redder the meat, the more the carnitine. Carnitine is a way I like to think of a car shuttle that shuttles long-chain fatty acids from the cytosol of the cell through the mitochondrial membrane into the mitochondria, the energy powerhouse of the cell, so that we can break them down through beta oxidation for energy, right? So if we don't have a lot of carnitine, well, then we can't do that. We can't get it across the membrane, right? It needs that shuttle to do so. Now, it's not the sole reason we're going to have red meat, things that's full of B vitamins, right? But do I need to have a lot of red meat? Should I have a lot? And it's got a lot of iron, right? Things like that. Just chock full of vitamins and protein and healthy fats. Per ounce, actually, porterhouse steak has 7 grams of protein per ounce. So, you think about having a steak, right? If you're going to have any cheat meal, by the way, it's something that is high in fat and protein. It's that triple burger. You're not going to go for, no, I'm not saying eat that stuff every day, but have your lean meats every day. Have your chicken, have your fish, right? Have your turkey, have your lean pork chops. And you're going to have it all grilled or baked and nothing fried. You don't want any trans fat and have to have low sugar, right? You're having carbs in the form of fruits and veggies, but generally, when you eat sugar, carbohydrates through those sources, they have other things in them that help slow the absorption of the carbs, like soluble fiber, which feeds your gut bacteria, which regulates your mood, right? Is intimately involved with your brain and how you think. Use the example of butyric acid that's produced. It's a short chain fatty acid. It's produced by gut bacteria, and they eat the soluble fiber, and then they make that, and the butyrate affects serotonin levels in your brain, that happy neurotransmitter / hormone, right? So, you got to keep in mind that it's important to get a lot of soluble fiber, but if you're going to think of one thing as first thing first with your meals, high protein, high fat, okay? Now, you look at a ketogenic diet. A ketogenic diet, it could be 70-30 fat to protein. It could be, it could be 60-40 fat to protein. They recommend a lot more fat than protein, but really, if you're trying to build a lot of muscle at the same time and you don't want to just lead out, you need a ton of protein. I really can't emphasize that enough because it's just such a common freaking mistake. And chicken cutlet is not the same as grilled chicken. It's processed. You don't want anything processed under heat, just like the same oils like that. Like sunflower oil, safflower oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, all this crap, it's processed and the nutritional value is sapped from it. And so that's why we like things like olive oil or avocado oil, That's what you're going to put on your salad, by the way, something like that. Either of those would be good options, olive oil or avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, right, organic if you can. And the fats in the olive oil, or if you put an avocado with it itself, you put some eggs in the salad, right, will help you to absorb the compounds in the greens to a greater degree, okay? So you're getting tons of vitamins and minerals. And vitamins, you're like, vitamins, well, look at the B vitamins. I mean, they're not building muscle. They're all intimately involved with your metabolic processes. They're all coenzymes that are involved in metabolism. So it's super important to get a lot of them. And you really don't need a B complex if you get it all from food. But you got to make sure you have a diet rich in whole foods and, these heavy hitters, right? This lean meat, and your fruits and your veggies, okay? So that's another one. Let's see what else we got. You're going to intermittent fasting. So we're talking about energy intake, and look, it is true. Calories in, calories out. For weight loss alone, that's true. I'm talking about building muscle and burning fat. So that's what makes fasting better than just calorie restriction, okay? If you just restrict your calories, you just lose weight. If you eat everything in a short window of time, you manipulate your hormones, okay? You're going to produce more growth hormone. you're going to produce more testosterone, more luteinizing hormone, which correlates to boosted testosterone levels, right? Measured through LH typically. But some studies show over 100-something% with intermittent fasting, right? Relative to eating ad libitum throughout the day or regularly whenever you want, right? Now you can eat super frequently if you want to. You're just not manipulating your hormones in the same fashion, right? And also think with fasting, you're improving your insulin sensitivity. So, and reducing inflammation. It's great for your brain, promotes brain-derived neurotrophic factor production, right? Autophagy, but insulin sensitivity, not to get too off track. Improving insulin sensitivity is going to help you to better handle carbohydrates when you have them. It's going to help your body better break them down and process sugar, okay? And process carbs. So, another great thing with fasting. So what's an easy way to start that if you're somebody that likes to eat super frequently all the time? Well, you don't eat 4 hours before bed or 4 hours after you wake up. Sleep for 8 hours, that's a 16-hour fast. Now, you're going to add an hour onto the fasting window the next week and the next week after that again, until if you're a man, you can go, anywhere from 20 to 24 hours and you can kind of stay there consistently. That's what I did. Now I fast for about 20 hours to anywhere from 20 to 24 hours in a day. I probably average 22 hours on a fast. And when I eat everything within about 2 hours. Everything without about 2 hours, and I eat a ton. Okay, maybe 3 hours. Okay, and that's fine. But, you don't start there because you're going to stress your body out. It's not used to it, right? So I think the easiest way to start, 4 hours before bed. You don't need 4 after you wake up, sleep 8 hours, which you're going to do. As we said, that's an essential component to burning fat and building muscle, right? Also manipulating your hormone levels, right? And mental recovery as well. You're in a better mood. You're releasing less cortisol, stress hormone, which helps your body to put on fat. We don't like that, right? You're all stressed out all the time, just trying to store things. So when we talk about eating a lot of these healthy fats, to kind of get back to that too, don't be afraid to have a shot of extra virgin olive oil every day. Shane, that's so many calories at a time. You are going to be just roasting through fat. Give your body the energy source you want it to use to burn. Okay, and that's full of healthy fats. Great for your brain too. The neuronal membrane, right, of brain cells, of neurons, is more fluid-like when you eat a lot of healthy fats. And so that means, because they're components of, you look at something like DHA, right, you hear of in fish oil and EPA. And when you talk about these components of the cell membranes in the brain, they make it more fluid-like, these healthy fats. The neurotransmitter receptors, subsurface neurotransmitter receptors, they can come to the surface, they can bind neurotransmitters that are floating around, binding to different receptors, telling the cell to do something and initiate some neurological response, right? Now, if you eat crap and you eat trans fats and a lot of added sugar, you're not going to have any more added sugar. You're not going to have any soda. All you drink aside from and you're going to cut out dairy. You are going to cut out dairy as well. Generally pro-inflammatory. Think about dairy. Think about milk for the purpose of the cow, right? It was to fatten up the baby, all right? Generally in nature, we don't see something that's a very high source of both fat and carbohydrates. For the most part, it's predominantly one of those. So, milk is one of those exceptions where it's got a lot of both, and that's typically not a great thing. If we see that, it usually means it was, relatively unnatural, or it's got a very specific purpose in nature, and that is very much so the case with milk. It was to fatten the baby, okay, to give it a lot more fat, to have a comfortable path in development moving forward. So it doesn't seem like we quite need that. As I say athletically, cheese makes you sluggish, we always used to say on rugby, and it's really true. I'm telling you, try to cut dairy out even for 10 days, see how you feel. It's worth it, whether you're lactose intolerant or not, okay? There's other great options. You can have almond milk. Almond milk's good. Coconut milk. You can have mixes. Almond coconut milk mix. That's great. Now, when you're fasting, what can you have in terms of drinking? You can have water, right? The only other things are black tea and coffee. And, when you're not fasting, the other things you're drinking are like almond milk, coconut milk. It's really about it. Aside from tea and coffee and that stuff, you really nothing else. So, Shane, why can I not just have this energy drink, this Monster, because there's no sugar in this one. It's a good one. It's the new one with no sugar. If it's sweet and it has no sugar, that's typically a red flag, right? Unless the only sweetener is stevia, which that's what my supplement's gonna have, because that's the best one on the market. Actually improve insulin sensitivity. It's natural. It can help to reduce inflammation. Good stuff, right? If it's not just that, you got to really be careful. So you got to look at the ingredients. If it says erythritol, xylitol, sucralose, saccharin, maltodextrin, so all these things that, one, if it ends in ose, it's in sugar, you probably, shouldn't be having it. It's not just pure glucose from nature, right? Because that's what our body was meant to process. And these things, albeit they may not spike your insulin at the time, they do reduce insulin sensitivity over time. So they reduce your body's ability to respond to carbohydrates when you have them. And now it's more of a stressful thing for your body, and it has to react differently. Maybe it's going to store more fat. Maybe it's not going to be able to process them, right? They convert a lot to fat, things like that. So you got to think about that moving forward. And, Monster, for example. Oh my God, I might have just lost this whole video. That sucks. Actually, I hope not. Battery got low. But, that's a lot of stuff you guys can do. If you want to really get into some specific plan or something for yourself, those are just quick tips. What's up, buddy? Come on. Send me a message. All right, I do transformations, things like that. But I'm also happy to just answer some questions. It depends what you're looking for. I'm not, trying to rob anybody. But I do love to change people's lives. So, we've changed a few here at When Wellness already, thankfully. Very happy to say that. What's up? How you doing?
Good.
Talking about how to build more muscle, burn more fat, and get stronger all at the same time today. So that's about the whole gist of it. You guys have a fantastic rest of your night. Good night from me and J-Mo. Let's say hi to the people and get out of here. Watch out, buddy. I gotta get the phone. Look at the phone. Show me Marcus, you're crushed. Thank you. Madison, how you doing? Crystal, what's going on? Making me fit. Margie Bear, Juliana, how you doing? And Sammy. Have a fantastic rest of your night. Any more questions? Please don't hesitate to ask, you guys. Happy When Wellness. Have a good one.